Thanks for making us a part of your morning. This is Good Morning PD on Live 95.
Welcome back to Good Morning PD Live 95 on a Thursday morning. Thanks to our good friends and sponsor at Schofield. You said something interesting during the break that a lot of listeners don't know. We were talking about Limbaugh. I mean, Limbaugh basically saved AM radio.
He did.
True. And then he transitioned to FM, and he's had the largest audience in the history of radio for however many years. I mean, what he's done has been phenomenal. And you can like him or dislike him, agree or disagree, but what he's done in his craft is phenomenal. And you talked about how there's always been this organized effort to keep people off of his radio show.
Sure there is.
You know, I don't understand. I'll call names. I mean, I don't understand why McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's wouldn't advertise on Limbaugh's show. I mean, apparently they believe that if they advertise with that show, they're excluding themselves. But, I mean, as a consumer,
they consider it controversial programming.
Well, I mean, it's interesting programming. Yeah. I would imagine it's probably.
But he can deliver 20 million ears.
But, I mean, do they advertise on CNN?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm just
controversial.
It kind of cuts both ways. Yeah. But you talked about it. We're not going to call his name or her name, but we've got a particular person that we do business with that has been a target of that. And you were telling the story.
Well, and I've heard these stories over a number of years, and not just one single time, but there are organized groups out there, and we'll use Rush Limbaugh as an example because he does gather that kind of attention, but they will sit in their I picture basements in some faraway land, and they will start bombarding local advertisers of local Rush Limbaugh affiliates, trying to make them think that there's an upswell in the local market, and they're going to boycott or whatever to try to affect their advertising on the local Rush affiliates. I've heard stories of that before.
As my granddaddy said, you got a lot to do. You got a lot to do if you sit around on a computer and you're motivated to text or call or email or however you do this, and you think it's worthy of your time to, 5 or 6 people pretend to be 5 or 6,000 people to convince company X, Y, or Z that you don't need to. But I'll tell you, that's the Obama effect. I mean, I really believe that. That is the Barack Obama effect. It is the fact that activism and agitating will be duly rewarded in the United States of America. I listened to something he said the other day, he being former President Barack Obama. I listened to something he said the other day at some school of journalism when he said he was going to devote the next 20 years of his life to deploying, educating, funding civil activists. And in essence, that's agitators. And it shouldn't surprise us. That's all he's ever done is agitate and perform as a community organizer and activist. But that's going to be his priority. I mean, he thinks that's so important to deploy a certain element of our young people to do things like you're talking about. I mean, Obama believes that's important. I mean, in his soul. I mean, give him credit. I mean, he believes that Rush Limbaugh is a lot of what's wrong with America. He believes that it's critically important in his position of power and influence to motivate people to stop Limbaugh from doing what he's doing. He doesn't want to debate Limbaugh. He doesn't want to say my ideas are better than your ideas. And that goes back to the problem with liberalism today. And I wrote it down, and then we, got all involved in some other things. Today's liberal wants to define what is moral. Today's liberal wants to define what is justified. The word tolerance would be a prime example of what today's liberal is consumed by. They are very interested in tolerance and intolerance as long as they get to define what we should or should not tolerate. They're not serious people. They're driven once again by the sheer emotions of how they feel. Now, the fatal flaw they have is the lack of self-awareness. They sincerely believe, trust me on this, they sincerely believe that their position, the positions they've staked on policy, the societal issues that they seem to be more compassionate, about than moderates or conservatives, they believe that they have assumed the moral and intellectual high ground on everything. A liberal Democrat can call in here and question you about your faith and conflicting with the support of Trump, but you can't question him on the faith matters of the Democrat Party. I mean, to me, for a Democrat to call anybody and bring into play morality is a joke. Because this is the party whose platform, not a few Democrats yelling and screaming in California. I mean, we're accustomed to that. And by the way, I mean, the nut jobs are in charge. I mean, the nut jobs are in charge of the great state of California. I mean, it's unbelievable to me what the state of California and its local politicians have done. I think Tucker Carlson was talking to someone last night about the realities of California, and some of the language in the DOJ lawsuit against the state of California is the exact language that former President Barack Obama used in his lawsuit against the state of Arizona. The state of Arizona, if you remember, wanted to aid and assist the federal government in its enforcement of immigration. The state of California wants to stop, disrupt, thwart the efforts of the federal government in matters relating to immigration. So in the letter that Obama's DOJ sent, I think it was not Loretta Lynch. Who was the AG? I mean, before Eric Holder. It was Eric Holder, another nut job. Eric Holder sent a letter to California basically saying, and I don't have the letter in front of me, that it's the federal government's job to enforce immigration policy in America. We don't need your help. In essence, we'll enforce immigration as we see fit, we being, Barama's liberal administration. Arizona wanted to take some of their state agencies and municipal agencies and work hand in hand with basically fighting against illegal immigration. And the former administration in their lawsuit said verbatim, it's not your job. It's the job of the federal government. So when Jeff Sessions sues the state of California, not because they want to aid and assist, but because they're trying to get in the way of. I mean, they're actually calling illegals to let them know that there's potentially an ICE raid going to happen in your neighborhood in the next day or so. I mean, you're giving a heads up to illegal aliens. I mean, in essence, think of that. The state of California and their legislative authorities believe that it makes sense for the mayor of Oakland, I think is the person who did this first. The mayor of Oakland sends out a memo saying, hey, for you illegals, for you people that broke the law to come into this country, we're giving you a heads up. They may be coming after you. So DOJ in its lawsuit basically duplicates the letter of the former president by saying, look, we don't need your help. Immigration and enforcement is a federal issue, and the federal government is in charge of that issue. And the nut jobs went crazy. And I'll tell you, man, it would be an interesting game to play one day. We're not going to do it today, but it'd be very interesting to me to play a game of who is the biggest nut in California. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the most unbelievable collection of idiots ever assembled in American politics. Once again, and maybe I'm loosening up a little bit in my old age, I hardly ever laugh out loud. I laugh out loud when George and Jerry are together in the diner.
Sure.
I'll laugh out loud when Kramer and Ellen interact in this weird, or Elaine, I'm sorry, not Ellen, Elaine, when they, and I'll laugh out loud at Smokey and the Bandit. Other than that, I don't really laugh out loud at a whole lot.
Bank robbing
ain't baby crap alongside of But I've gotten where when I listen to some of these things on MSNBC and CNN, I catch myself laughing out loud. I mean, MSNBC had something last night. I think it's Chris Matthews' show. And Jerry Brown was there talking about, Fox News. Damn it. It's Fox News. Fox News put Jeff Sessions up to this. But, Rev, they've got this bent gene. The left in America today has got this bent gene that they have proclaimed themselves arbiters of truth and justice. Nobody else knows what's moral. Nobody else knows what's just. Nobody else knows what's tolerated, what's to be tolerated. They define that. Why? Because they care more. And it goes back to exactly what I've said since day one of being on this show. Modern liberalism in the American political universe is not a serious governing philosophy. It's not. It's absolutely an emotional disorder. And it overwhelms the senses. And if you are a governor of a state and you believe it makes sense for a mayor in one of the major cities of your state to not only not enforce immigration law, but to get in the way of, to do things like send memos and text messages and emails to illegal immigrants, letting them know that the federal government is here trying to do their job, and you can defend that. You can justify that. You can tolerate that. You have lost every ounce of legitimacy with serious people. Now, there's still some very unserious people over there who believe in this crazy nonsense. This, this illegal doesn't really mean illegal. But we'll see how that plays itself out.